A little bit about myself. I am Dr. Larry Gray. I hold a PhD from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in cellular and molecular physiology. I made the transition during my postdoctoral fellowship into computational biology, where I'll be using more technology along with biomedical research. And during that, I developed skills in Python, which is a common programming language used for data science. And from going there and asking questions such as, how do you predict the outbreak of foodborne illness? And questions like that, I became very interested in predicting the future and how that can be done. So I guess I like to say I was a simple and poor country boy from the woods of Jonesboro, Louisiana. I accepted a scholarship to study pre-med at a local liberal arts college, a couple hours away from my home. I was a first generation college student. However, to the dislike of my parents, I dropped out of school at the beginning of my sophomore year to go work at a tech startup. And there was a very important part of my life. I was able to travel the world, do things, become exposed. I realized that the network of people that I was introduced to was very, very important for my future success as I tapped that network later on in order to gain future employment and to eventually end up going back to school. So most of the students, I don't know if they know or not, but I graduated from Cal State Fullerton. I went there, I returned to school to go to Cal State Fullerton and got into biomedical research through a program similar to social capital, in which they looked at socially economically disadvantaged students and helped them enter into research careers. And so it really helped. And one of the big aspects of that was the networking aspect, in which they exposed us to different people. The person I ended up doing my PhD work with, my PhD advisor, I actually invited her to come to my school and give a talk. And I asked her when she arrived if I could come work for her, and she agreed. And that took me on a whirlwind. I ended up at Hopkins, right? Mm-hmm. And it was through these activities like this, and we went to conferences, I built networks, all these types of things that really helped me grow. My family in all of this is very, very important. They're very supportive, other than the fact that I left school, but I eventually came back. But they were very supportive once they realized the things that I was trying to accomplish and the bigger vision that I had for my life, that they were very supportive, even though they themselves had never finished. I did pre-med because that's what I thought was a good career, right? I wanted to be a doctor. That's what most young Black men want to be, as a doctor. It's a great career. It comes with people, everyone wants to feel important, right? And it was a field in which you could feel important, that you're contributing something. And so that was my thought pattern, that I wanted to be that person that people looked up to. It wasn't until I got into biomedical research that I realized my mode of thinking and the creativity that I possess were extremely well with scientific thinking, right? That I learned that I can actually solve very complex questions with the way that I think and I approach problems. And it was with the help of Dr. Maria Linder, who took the time and invested heavily into my development through just spending time with me on the weekends, doing other, and sending me, I went on a trip to Australia. She provided a way for me to go there and get extra research experience and just numerous things. All the way into my PhD, she was just really there to help guide me and help me really believe in myself and my ability to do something novel, right? And I truly believe that throughout my career, I did something very amazing with the work that I was able to accomplish. But she was definitely a major influence on me. It can be a very active process. So it begins by simply reaching out to people that you think possess those skills that you want to acquire. And I do this whenever I moved to Utah. I was thinking about how I wanted to advance my career. If I was going to stay here, I really need to know the local environment and all who's here and who's, who holds what position. It's still relatively small. And so I went on LinkedIn and I paid to get message. I can message all these people in positions that I eventually would like to get in, right? The intention is I want to talk to them about what it is that they do. How did they get to their position doing this? And throughout that process, I establish relationships and then I recognize like, oh, this person, we hit it off very well. We'll talk back and forth, and we just establish rapport, right? So there's a way to do it instead of saying, come out, I want you to be my mentor, but really looking them out and saying, hey, you're in this position that I would love to be in. Can we just talk and tell me how you got there in that path? And those relationships can develop into mentorships. But you can be very deliberate in doing that, and reaching out. And most people, and I said 98% of people are very receptive to those conversations. So people love talking about themselves. So even I. So for internships, you're looking at, if you want to do a summer internship, you're looking and applying in the fall. It's far ahead that you need to be looking about these opportunities, especially whenever you're thinking about coding and data science. Those internships right now for my job, we have an internship open and it's in the fall that we're applying for next year. But for a good internship called Google Summer of Code, which is a great experience for those that want to get into data science. That again also starts back in the fall to go for the summer. So students should be looking pretty far ahead when thinking about those types of internships. Internships are fairly rare for data science interns. I don't know why. It's a very competitive field, right? It's so competitive that I don't think that the need or the desire to have interns is that big of a driver, right? But when you have those that want to actually educate people, and I take that very serious, that I was trained through sort of internships, right? Where people took under mentorships and getting into a field, it always helps to be able to have that type of exposure, especially when you're coming in and entering into something that's very, very hard to get into, that doesn't require a college education in order to get into. Like it doesn't require, but it's extremely hard to get into the field. So in order to explain that, we need to really look at the data science ecosystem. And it can be described by a pyramid, similar to what we learned in school, the food pyramid, right? It's composed of 4 divisions. And at the bottom of this, or the base of this pyramid, is what is reserved for software application engineers. These are the people that actually develop the data science products. The products in which data science is actually embedded into, or predictive analytic tools are embedded into. These individuals don't have any formal data science training, but their presence is absolutely necessary because you need the software in order to put in your machine learning or your artificial intelligence, right? One level up from that is the data engineer, whose responsibility is to store and process data. He must be skilled at this database language called SQL and Python, as well as using cloud-based infrastructure. So the data engineer extracts, transforms, and loads data that will be eventually used by the other data practitioners. So the data engineer is one level above the software engineers. Now we get into the stage of analytics above the data engineering. This is what people generally think of when they think of data science. And that first step is the data analyst, and its job is more about hindsight. And this meaning that their role in data science is to help you better understand what events happened in the past and how they affect the future. Like we sold, before this storm, the big hurricane, we sold hundreds of cases of Pop-Tarts and beer, right? Well, in the future now, because we know that, we're going, before every hurricane, we're going to stock our shelves with Pop-Tarts and beer, right? It's more hindsight. You're looking at things that happened in the past. And that's the role of the data analyst. Their skills that they're required by them are fairly, there's going to be a cross section of skills that apply across the board here. So they need the programming, generally programming language, Python. There's another programming language called R. They should be handy with spreadsheets. They're good at communicating results. They do data visualization. They might be skilled with a business intelligence tool, such as Tableau. Those are the general skill levels that you have for that. What's important to note about all of these is there's two more I'm going to talk about, is that you can easily transition from each one of these positions into another one. And generally, you see this happen quite a bit with data analysts transitioning into data scientists, right? Because the core skills of a data analyst are actually the foundation for the work that a data scientist does. So the level above a data analyst is where you're looking at the data scientist and the machine learning engineer. This is where you're talking about foresight. They're actually predicting things that are happening, they're potentially happening in the future. The data scientists spend most of their time building algorithms that can do this type of thing. So they're coming up with using statistical models to predict future events, right? The machine learning engineer does the same exact thing, but in addition to that, he actually understands how technically you can put everything together in order to put this maybe at like Amazon hosts most web servers in the world are actually hosted by Amazon. And in order to get things up and running and have your application actually running, available for people to use, you need to understand that infrastructure. And the machine learning engineer understands that infrastructure and how to put everything together. So not only as a data scientist, you develop a model that will make these predictions, the data engineer can make a model and then turn around and put that into what is called production and actually have it ready for use for other people to use. But those are pretty much, they're doing very, very similar things. So, and their work is centered around foresight. Their education is a little bit more intense, right? So they have to do software engineering. Their skill levels of programming is a lot more. They have to do software engineering. So artificial intelligence is broken down into two fields. You have deep learning and you have machine learning. And so data scientists and machine learning engineers are both skilled in both of those areas. They're also have a little bit more heavy statistics backgrounds. They do data visualization like the other ones. The big difference between these and the other, like the data engineer and data analyst, is that they do machine learning and artificial intelligence in general. And I think that covers the data science ecosystem. So it's all about this cycle or this framework called FACT. So as a data analyst, you need to know how to F, frame a question, A, assemble data, C, calculate the results, and T, tell others. And that's what data visualization comes in, is how do you arrange your data or your results from your analysis in a way that can easily communicate your ideas to others. And so there's a lot of effort. I work at also the Maryland Institute of College of Art, and they have a program called Data Visualization and Analytics. And they spend a lot of time, bulk of their education, focusing on data visualization, the program, and most of them are art students, and it's amazing work that they do in order to communicate data in a visual way, which is a skill upon itself. I'm not that skilled at it. I can give you basic graphs and charts, but there are people that are actually really, really skilled at it, and it's an important tool. And it goes back to having people from different backgrounds that are beyond just STEM backgrounds involved in data science careers, because there are different skills that need to be brought to the table to help communicate to the stakeholder, which is your ultimate goal in all of these areas, is that you work for a business or you work for a social enterprise, and your goal is to produce results that affect the bottom line, whether the bottom line is to reduce poverty, right? Or the bottom line is to actually increase profits or increase customers. And so you're using these tools in order to do that. And data visualization is one of those tools to help communicate those to the stakeholders that actions are actually having an effect. And here's a visual to show that. Yeah, with the maturation of this industry, you're starting to see the appearance of data science consultants more and more, in which they're working in a consulting firm and supplying their services. You have industries such as Booz Allen that actually have huge teams of data scientists that go out and service customers. But I still think for the majority of the case, you have in-house data scientists performing the work. And it just depends on the industry. For a young startup company, very young, you generally would have someone that's very, has a general broad understanding of data science. While at someplace like Google, you would have someone that has very domain specific knowledge. So one of the best, right now we have accountants that we're going to train into being data analysts, right? And they have the domain expertise, that they lack the technical skills. But you see this happening where you want someone with domain expertise working in your company, whatever. So you see that happen quite a bit as you go into different industries, that you have people with data science skills actually having being experts in this. So even within the company, the way that the data science is structured can be a centralized or distributed structure for how the data scientists work within the company, in which sometimes they can be embedded into different departments, right? And so the accounting department would have their data scientists, the HR department would have those data scientists, or they take this centralized where all the data scientists work together and they farm out their work or their expertise to the different departments. And those are the two different types of how internally they're structured to serve. And it just really depends on the size of the organization in order to do something. It depends on the types of internal structures you have for data scientists. So the different industries and how data science is used within them are just a few. So in finance, this is always the biggest one, is credit risk and fraud. Surprisingly, these types of algorithms that are built to detect fraud we use them in accounting also, not for fraud detection, but for erroneous transactions that just don't belong. There's been a mistake by the bookkeeper, and we can identify those mistakes doing this. But also in finance, you have sentiment analysis of the news. Is that you actually understand how the news is going to affect the market. Doing machine learning to look at the sentiment of different news articles and how that's going to affect things. So in healthcare, one interesting story is how data science is being used is really interesting. It's this company out of Utah, out of Salt Lake, called Recursion Pharmaceuticals. And what they do is they take very high resolution images of healthy and diseased cells. And then they take the disease cells and they treat them with a compound or chemical to see if they get better. And they can use this they can actually use some machine learning to determine if they're getting better or not, or if the treatment is working. It's just really, really amazing things that they can do just from using machine learning in this respect. Flattery will get you nowhere. I truly believe that, and that people do sense when there's an honesty about your intentions. And I think the most success that I've had it's been because I've been very authentic and honest about my intentions, and that's helped me. And so I felt I needed to convey to that, especially when you're approaching people that are have a lot of demand on their time, is how do you actually interact with them in a way that you're just not another person that wants something from them, right? And how do you convey that in a way that their investment in time in you is benefiting them also, right? And I think I've learned to do that over time, is to be able to just be honest. And it's not like I go out and I just try to get people to like me. It's not about me just trying to get people to give me something. I truly want to learn from them. I truly want to take away from this conversation and be better. And whenever you go in with that mindset, you listen, you're more attentive, you're able to talk more freely. And I think that's huge. And I know that when approaching these situations when you're not, and it's about flattery and a lot of other things, that it's just the not being genuine actually is not the best. I've gone down that route before. It doesn't turn out well. I decided I was going to step away from biomedical research, started teaching at Georgetown University. And between 6 and 9 months, I applied for jobs in industry without a single, I would get interviews, but they would not go through. And it was really disheartening, right? To see myself teaching this to new people that are going into this career, and I'm struggling to actually gain employment. But I kept at it. Every single day I would apply for jobs, and job after job, and just get turned down or not get callbacks, or get a job get a job offer, and the offer was just not what I needed to survive, right? I would get those offers, right? And I was like, I can't take this job that you're not paying enough, right? And turning down and knowing, and this was on the background of my postdoctoral fellowship ending. So it wasn't like I could just lay back in my postdoc and just be comfortable and do that. There was a deadline and I needed to get a job, and it was fastly approaching. So like within a month of my fellowship ending, I actually got a job. And it was just kind of going through that, the stress of that, and just knowing that I didn't I didn't give up, but I was in a good position because of my network. Like, people were going to bat for me. People were calling others looking for positions for me. Um, uh, I became a professor at Georgetown because of my network and people reaching out. And so I was able to tap that during that period of time, even when I was just really struggling uh, to move on. So that's uh, I, I made it through that. I guess that's my story of resilience that's most recent as far as when it comes to professional strength and survival. It's this story of me struggling. So even with all the education and skills yourself, sometimes it can be hard. But having a network of people to work with that helped me really was what got me through it.